what we discussed, within painter growth and everything this year is really living in what's called box 2, the important and not urgent items. So you're July, you're slam busy with exterior work, and you actually can shift your mindset and start to think about what's coming, 3, 4, 5 months ahead. Then you start preparing it's important to get those interior flyers and that marketing out, but it's not super urgent because you have, a backlog of exterior work. So that's like the first way that I would think about it from a strategic level. When your leads are low and your sales are slow, who you gonna call? Brush Buster.
What's up, everyone? Mike Hickman and Jesse Teron here. I'm founder of paintergrowth.com. Jesse, head coach and partner here. Stoked to bring you guys another Brush Buster episode on the Painter Growth podcast. How is that for a new intro? Switching it up.
Stoked to be here, man. Let's rock and roll. I feel like there's been so much happening in the business that the time that you and I actually have to connect is basically during these podcast episodes we record. So.
Yes, except coming up, we have the Painter One conference. We've got 3 days in San Diego and then 4 days in Vegas. We're gonna get some work done there.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
All right.
By the way, before we get started, your setup is amazing right now. What are you, just for people that aren't watching, like, what are you doing right now?
So I set up my Sony DSLR camera to live stream onto StreamYard while I'm walking on my treadmill.
That's amazing. Are you in a dungeon or where are you?
So in my basement, we set up like this spare bedroom. It's like a double wide bedroom, but there's no windows in it, so it can't actually be a bedroom. So we turned it into a gym, painted all the walls black, got rubber flooring, got a rig, got weights, treadmill, rower, air bike, TV. We're set up.
That's awesome. You're gonna get fit just by walking.
Yeah, man. I can't remember if I said I'm gonna try to do 5 miles today, just finishing up the day.
It's amazing. Quick question on it. Like, do you find, like, are you able to type or do you mainly just do like voice when you're on the?
Mainly voice memo, and then I'll go in and I'll just do a couple touch-ups. But like the platform that I bought here on Amazon is like pretty good. I can rest my hands on it and still it's pretty supportive. So
that's awesome. I feel like walking too, when you're being on, when people those people listening doing like video calls all day, and I find myself get like too versus like I get a little sedentary, like where I'm just not moving that much. Whereas sometimes when you're not on video and you can just go for a walk and talk, it's a lot easier. But new day and age, when you're on so many video calls, it is hard to do more like the walk and talks. But my brain, I don't know about you, my brain works way better when I'm out just walking.
Yes. I noticed yesterday I was like so focused and getting out of just my office setup where I can get distracted. You can open up Reddit or whatever else. You just open up your phone and just get distracted. But I have a project, I have an intention. I hop on here, I just get it done.
Sweet, man. Well, I love that setup. That's pretty sweet. It's close to the rooftop setup I'm at in outside, but we'll give it a good setup.
only so much I can do in Saskatchewan, right?
In January. All right, man. Let's answer some questions. Let's have some fun today and see if we can help some people.
All right, so this one is about some cost-effective marketing ideas for slow seasons. Dear Brush Busters, I run a small painting company in a rural area, and winter is always slow for us. I've tried some advertising in the past, but it feels like I'm just throwing money away without seeing results. Do you have any creative, cost-effective marketing ideas to help us drum up some business during the off-season? That's from Rebecca in Idaho.
Okay. You want to start?
Actually, it's funny because this morning I just recorded the Painter Growth Story podcast with Keen Hayes, and he is in a community of 11,500 in an island off of Vancouver Island. Salt Springs Island, to be exact, if anyone wants to look that up. And he's completely off the tools. He has a crew running full time. He's actually down in Mexico right now on vacation because he followed what we tell him to do. So when you're in that situation, Jesse, what do you default back to?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I'd ask, if I was coaching Rebecca, the first thing I would ask is, what type of jobs do you focus on, right? Like, are you an interior painter or an exterior painter? Are you doing both? What do you specialize in? I think there's a number of people that, I'll say the first answer. The people that focus, a lot more on exterior and whatnot, I think can actually just focus more on marketing and sales and booking work exterior for the following season or during that time. And it's like you put almost too much stress and pressure on yourself to potentially keep, a number of crews busy during the winter when it's like you're like fighting against the forces of nature almost, right? And so I think the first thing I'd ask Rebecca is like, what percentage of your work throughout the year are you focused on exterior, interior, and then just align around that. And if you are more of an exterior painter, you can actually just change it so that you don't put as much pressure and you can scale up or down crews accordingly. That'd be the first thing that I ask. And then if you are wanting to keep, yourself or a number of crews busy in the off season, I think like when I still had my painting companies, like as soon as July 15th hit, July 15th to 25th, right around there, immediately we start switching basically all of our marketing content to like, we're the interior specialist. So we start pre-booking work way ahead of time so that July, August, September, we're thinking about what's coming in October, November, December when the weather flips. And if you can start to pre-book out those 3 months during the summer months when you're busy with the interior work, then again, you can deploy job site marketing, which is converting one job into an additional 5 leads or another, about 2 to 3 jobs from there. Like if you can book out October, November, December, then you could basically take job site marketing, and I think you'll keep yourself busy January, February, March with interior from doing that alone. But the big thing is you don't want to get into a position where it's October 15th and you're like, I have no work for the crews, right? So it's living, we've talked a lot of big theme about what we discussed, within painter growth and everything this year is really living in what's called box 2, the important and not urgent items. So you're July, you're slam busy with exterior work, and you actually can shift your mindset and start to think about what's coming, 3, 4, 5 months ahead. Then you start preparing it's important to get those interior flyers and that marketing out, but it's not super urgent because you have, a backlog of exterior work. So that's like the first way that I would think about it from a strategic level.
So I want to break down. There's 2 things that I heard there that are distinctly different that I just want to call out. Now, the first one is expectations, because if you set up your business in a way where you just work 6 months of the year and you do exterior from May until October and you budget properly, you can essentially run a 6 month of the year business, a seasonal business, and take 6 months off. Like if that's your goal, you can absolutely structure it that way and scale up with seasonal labor. But if your expectation is, I want to run a business year round, but only being busy 6 months of the year is what your reality is, then you're going to be super disappointed and broke because you didn't save properly.
Yep.
So that's the first thing I heard. It like, what is your goal? What type of business do you want to run? And what are your expectations around that? And then the second part is being proactive. I love that. Starting to think it's hard to think like when it's super hot, it's like 95 degrees outside. It's the middle of July. You're thinking like swimming pools and sprinklers and getting exterior projects done. It's hard to think about that first snowfall coming in, start of November or whenever that is. Because it's just such a complete opposite of where your situation is right now. But you're exactly right. If you can think 3 months ahead, 6 months ahead in your business and prepare accordingly, then your business becomes a lot easier to run and life becomes a lot better when you can live in that box too, like you said.
Well, and one thing on that, a reason why people never get there, right, is because they're typically always operating in what's called box 1, which is important and urgent items, right? Or box 3, which is urgent but not important. That's like interruptions, phone calls, emails, everything, right? They're oscillating between box 1, 3, well, and then 4 being Reddit, social media, that type of deal, right? And most small business owners never actually get to living in a box 2. But if you go into the year, right, and you look at each quarter and what has to hit, what marketing initiatives have to hit each quarter so that you make sure that your schedule is full, each one of them. It's like if you're in that zone right now where you're only living in that important and urgent zone, choose one day in your calendar, just take the full day and like really just map out the entire year and what it looks like. And by doing that and kind of ripping the Band-Aid and doing that for one day, you're going to start to move into that box 2 a lot faster versus saying, oh, I'll get to box 2 when I do X, in box 1, because ultimately you're never going to get there. From my experience and from what I've seen, so you kind of need to rip the Band-Aid and just
it's because these urgent things that you can knock off the list so quickly give you such a dopamine rush, right?
Yeah, 100%.
It's fun to solve immediate problems, but like sitting down with your planning spreadsheet, thinking 3 to 6 months out, I'm like, getting something done like that does not give you the same dopamine rush at all. In fact, it's the opposite, right? Especially if it's one of those tasks that isn't natural for you, takes your energy and doesn't make you feel, energized. It can be difficult to want to do when your phone rings and you can go solve a problem for Mrs. Jones or your painter to go pick up paint or whatever.
Totally.
It's antithetical to growth, though.
Yeah. Love it. Is there anything else you'd recommend for, going back to box 1 of, if you're in that situation, it is the middle of January right now. So for those listening, trying to drum up some business for, the next 2-3 months while the winter, I guess we technically just kind of got into winter seasonally. So any
100%.
short-term tactics?
Yes. At this Painter One conference we're going to next week, I'm going to be doing a presentation on field marketing managers. And this is such a legit role that most businesses, any business doing more than I would say $250K a year, needs to have in their business. And the idea of a field marketing manager is basically someone who can go do the hustle marketing needed to get leads. So instead of waiting for calls to come in, waiting for your Facebook ads to work, waiting for your Google ads to work, all of that stuff that's like high cost, low time, let's set up a role in your business that is moderate to low cost, and high time. Meaning this person goes out, they knock on doors, they put out lawn sign, they do door hangers, they talk to property managers, they do the networking, and their KPIs around number of leads, estimates, and strategic partners that they bring in every week and every month. And if you can set their KPIs and their benchmarks to the weekly and monthly goals that your business has, and you compensate them in alignment with your business goals, they're going to be able to get the results that you need. And it's going to revolve around door-to-door marketing, door hangers, lawn signs, and strategic partner networking.
Yeah, 100%. A lot of these, this conversation too, it's like, to me, it just keeps going back to the fundamentals. If you just continue doing the fundamentals the entire year, then you should never have, you shouldn't have this problem, right? Like the fundamentals of marketing.
I think the thing is that most people don't understand the fundamentals. They don't understand what good marketing and bad marketing looks like.
Right.
And because of that, they'll do something like try a really terribly designed flyer, put out 500 of them, not understanding the level that you need in order to run a statistically significant test. And then after that, when they don't get any leads from it, they claim that they tried flyers. Flyers don't work for me. Flyers don't work in my area. When they don't realize that in order to do a statistically significant test, you need like 10,000 of them, and you need a good marketing message in order to have any response at all.
Do you know what's another way to answer this question is like the inverse of the question? Like, what would I do if I didn't want any leads throughout the winter? And off the top of my head, I would design a really poor flyer that was not specialized at all. It looks terrible. And then I would send out, maybe like 500. And like you said, the claim that it doesn't work. I would not actively be out in the field marketing, knocking on doors, getting that. I would not pick small areas to focus on that I know jobs absolutely need to get painted. I would be scattered. I would hit one area one day and hit an area 30 minutes away the next day, and then another area an hour away the next day, and then I would keep switching rather than creating a system. So if I didn't want to get any leads and I wanted to really drive myself nuts or whatever, that's probably what I would do.
So if anyone here is listening to this and struggling with leads, listen back to that last 45 seconds and just do the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Right? That's literally the cheat code to business. Pick a specific area, right? A really targeted area that's moderate to high income, nice vehicles, nice lawns, right? Cared for yards, and hit that over and over every few weeks or every month. Just get that repeat exposure in a specific area, and like it's gonna compound.
Yeah, and the other thing too is that if Rebecca, if you have a bunch of past leads, past customers, and whatnot that you've done exterior painting, I'd be calling and texting all of them and ask if they have any interior projects. That is probably one of the lowest hanging fruit items that we kind of brushed over a little bit. But if you do have that database, especially of clients that you've done exterior, the best interior clients that I have are clients that we painted their exteriors and they're already stoked with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Give them a call, each individually a phone call, send them a text blast, do an email blast, make some sort of seasonal time delineated offer, free paint upgrade, 10% off, priority scheduling, free interior design consultation, create some sort of relevant offer and call to action. You're going to get people responding.
All right. I think we beat that one to the bone. Are you ready to move on?
Yeah, I do want to say, however, that this episode has been generously sponsored by Drip Jobs. So if you're looking to save time and close more jobs, Drip Jobs is the CRM built specifically for painting contractors. You can manage your leads, automate your follow-up, build proposals, and send invoices all in one place. And with powerful tools like production rates and job costing, it will allow you to work smarter and not harder. So I do really recommend Drip Jobs and trying it to see how it can help you streamline your business. And we have a link for you in the description. Check out the special offer for this podcast. There we go. Right. First podcast sponsor. Thank you, Drip Jobs. Thanks, Tanner. Making this podcast a reality. Appreciate you, man.
Love it. Okay, let's go to the next one. So this one's all about managing disputes or clashing personalities within a crew. So, hey, Brushbusters, I recently noticed that a couple of my crew members are constantly butting heads on the job. It's not only affecting their productivity, but also the morale of the rest of the team. I've tried talking to them individually, but it doesn't seem to be resolving the issue. What is the best way to manage disputes like this without causing resentment or making things worse? Sincerely, this is Jared from San Diego. San Diego, Jared, we're coming to hang out with you in 3 days in San Diego. Not actually hanging out with you unless you're a painter one, but we're coming to San Diego. So, Mike, you want to start? Or you want me to start with this one?
So I guess I'll start first because I don't love interpersonal conflict, but I do love leadership and having a really good culture. Because it sounds like there is some sort of unmitigated, dispute within these painters that is not being addressed properly. Whether like the only reason someone would butt heads is if one person feels like they're pulling the weight of the other one, or if they just like their personalities don't work together for whatever reason. So I would want to sit them both down together and just work through a kind of like a therapy session, but you don't want to call it a therapy session. But you want to figure out what's really going on. And once you can do that and you can really hash it out with them, then that's the only way you'll be able to solve it. What comes to mind for you?
I mean, first and foremost, Jared, I think that's great that you chatted with them individually. And that's the first step, is to really have that conversation individual to see what's going on. Just building off what you said, Mike, it sounds like there's a lot of symptoms that are going on, but we haven't got to the root issue of what's actually happening here. So I think in this situation, I would go back, start individually first again, and just get way more curious with each of the crew members to see if I can get to the root of the issue. Because it sounds like you're still, if you haven't got to the root, you're kind of just beating around the symptoms all the time, right? And then it's just, then you'll handle it. It'll be fine for like a day or two. And then by the third day, things are blown up again, right? And you're just going to keep, repeating that patterns and whatnot. So I would, like I said, sit them down individually again, try to get to the root. And what you can do is just say, hey, what's going on? Okay, well, and then just keep asking the question, why? Until they no longer have any response, right? So you say, okay, well, why is that bothering you? Okay, well, why is that bothering you? Okay, well, why is that bothering you? Or why is that going on? Oh, that's interesting. Tell me more about that. Oh, that's interesting. Why would you say that? And you got to keep going. You got to get way more curious to see what's going on. And then in that conversation, and I would actually start the conversation and say, like, do you want this to work with your other crewmate? See if they're actually bought into making it work. Because if they say, no, I'm just not, like, I'm done working with the person, well, I mean, you can save yourself a lot of time by making that resolution if they're not even interested in solving it. It's like, hey, are you committed to solving this and having a work environment that is a lot more fun for both of you guys, and you actually enjoy being there? So make sure they have the buy-in, get to the root issue, and then once you get to the root, say, okay, if we did X, Y, Z, do you believe that would solve the problem? And validate them and make sure that would actually get to the root. then have a conversation with the other person, same thing, get their buy-in, make sure they're committed to doing that, get to the root issue. Okay, if we did X, Y, Z, would that solve the problem? And if they say yes, then you can go deploy that right away. But I think interpersonal or team conflict, it's one of the, it's one of those things where it's kind of like drop everything and you gotta get onto it right away. Because if that stuff, like you said, does affect the morale of the other members of the team, that spreads like wildfire. And then all of a sudden you could have nobody working for you really quick. I'm not sure how big your team is, Jared, but anytime there's any sort of inter-team conflict, it's literally like drop everything. We're going to get to the root of this and solve this ASAP, and nothing else really matters at that point until that's solved.
Each ownership you think Jared should have? Like, how much is the owner's fault of the business versus how much is the quote unquote fault of the staff?
I mean, my real answer is everything's Jared's fault. Right? That's my real answer, is that every single thing that happens in your business is you. Right? And so if you take that perspective, and it's a really empowering perspective, because you realize, okay, what did I do in this situation that is causing, these events to play out in that situation?
What didn't I do?
And what didn't I do? Right? And if you can start to look at yourself in that way and be that introspective, well, you're going to have a way stronger infrastructure and foundation of your business long term, right? Because what's happening is these team members are playing out right now, and they're actually a symptom of something you did. So that's my real answer on that one, is to take a good hard look at yourself and what you did in that situation to create that, and then also understand that there are dynamics, and when you're in a leadership role and you have teammates and whatnot, personalities are at play, traumas are at play, understanding what people are going through outside of work. There's so many different elements that are at play right now. And the key for you as a leader is to be able to discern and not get caught into the stories of what are happening on the site. Because one person's going to have one story, the other person's going to have the other story. At the end of the day, they're both just stories. And your goal is to be able to sit there, observe it, get to the root, and just don't get drawn into basically the drama of what's going on or the story that's going on, and be able to step outside of it and have that conversation from that perspective.
I think on the proactive side of it, one thing that I've typically like to do, and I think is typically, this is having a weekly check-in, like formalized or semi-formalized check-in with each one of your team members, where you just have like 15 minutes set aside where you do it either on the phone or in person, and you ask them a few questions every single week. Personal check-in. How are you doing? How's everything at home? Great. Mm-hmm. Work check-in. How's work? How are you liking the jobs? How am I doing as a leader? Number 3, are you making enough money? Number 4, do you like where you're working at? Right? And you just go through and you ask those questions every single week. And things are going to pop up a lot sooner before they come to head and cause this type of like interpersonal conflict. Like, hey, I've been working with Jimmy, and I feel like Jimmy hasn't really been pulling his weight. And I tell you, and like they're going to tell you these things before they become problems. And that's kind of like, level 1 of like what good leadership begins with.
Yeah, I love that. I think that that was the thing that changed my business in 2016, was when I implemented a one-on-one meeting every single week with every one of my painters. And that year I had 17 painters. So I did 9 meetings on Monday and 8 meetings on Tuesday. And yeah, it was a huge investment, but it fundamentally changed, everything in my team and the culture. And we had, in 2015, we had, I think it was like 78% turnover like throughout the year. Like, it was insane. And then the only time we had so much turnover in 2016 is because like we chose to let them go. It wasn't because they left. Whereas in 2015 we had 79% because they left, and we didn't have the culture in the team. So that's how impactful doing a 20 to 30 minute meeting one-on-one with each person on your team can be in terms of retention and culture building.
So yeah, definitely proactive. Start having those meetings. Just like bite the bullet, do it. It's not going to be perfect. They're going to be awkward at first, but just jump in and do it. You're going to get better at it quickly. And then in terms of the reactivity, now solving this problem, yeah, good work taking some action and talking to them each individually. But I think kind of like a group intervention is important and just working it out together to see if it's even workable. And if it's not, then you might have to make a hard decision of either splitting them up or getting rid of somebody.
Yeah, 100%. I think a good lesson here too is like the willingness to have tough conversations. Easy life, easy conversation is tough life. It's a pretty good rule of thumb. It's like, are you willing to have this tough conversation? And yeah, just again, echo what you said is once you have that individual conversation, which I outlined earlier, then it's definitely bring them together and come to that resolution. Make sure everybody is on the same page before you can get back onto a job site or into a field is a really important aspect of this.
Awesome.
All right.
So I think that's probably good for today.
All right.
We were able
that was
to
fun.
Yeah, I love these.
Yeah, this is great. Hopefully that was helpful for you guys, Jared. Hopefully that was helpful, Rebecca, in Idaho there, and looking forward to and everybody else that was listening. Hopefully that was helpful for you guys, and we'll see you again soon on another episode of Brush Busters.